Steve Mellish is going to go through the 3 horses that he has selected. Like I said, Steve, I enjoyed trying to find the 3 horses. I mean, there could have been, 30 or 40 I could have chosen.
Absolutely.
So let's go with the 3 you've chosen, starting with a horse who managed to win at Sandown August last year.
Yeah.
Pride of Arras.
Well, fun enough, you said about you could have chosen... I wanted to put in a Rafe Beckett horse. One, I think the yard is year on year getting better and better.
Yeah.
I had at least 5 or 6 different Rafe Beckett horses I could have put in, genuinely. In the end, I've gone for this horse, maybe because it might end up in slightly lower class than some of the other horses I was running in. It was August the 8th. You'll see him pick up in a minute from... It was quite
unlikely winner.
Really unlikely. He doesn't just win in the end. And the horses who follow him home are now rated 93 and 90, or 90 and 93. So he's not beating nothing. He's really good in the final furlong. And he storms clear in the style of a pretty good horse, I think. Now, the downside, if we didn't see him again, and that is a worry, reading, again, give another reference to Mark's book, reading the just comments of Rafe Beckett, just basically they just lost him in the second half of the season. I'm paraphrasing, he just went a bit flat, and so they missed the season out. But he's a middle distance horse in the making. That was a mile. The 3 siblings have all won, have all shown their best form at a mile and a half, that sort of trip. This is by New Bay, who won the French Derby. You saw the run style there. It's a middle distance horse for sure. Now, as long as all's well with him, and reportedly it is, I think he's a sort of horse who could win maybe a nice handicap or 2 down the line. A good handicap. And I just think he might even stay a bit further than a mile and a half.
Well, of course, the system for entering the Derby has changed in the last couple of years because of what happened with COVID. It's now established in a new manner, but the entries for the Derby were made earlier this year, and he's one of the 12 horses that Rafe Beckett has included in the Derby. So it suggests that whatever he's done or his reputation at least warrants being entered for the Derby this year. So
it also gives you just another reminder of just how strong that yard's become.
Incredible,
I know you feel there's other you put a horse in yourself.
Indeed, yes.
But I genuinely could have put in one of many.
Yeah.
And whether that's the right one or not, time will tell.
And I know it's always dangerous looking at pictures, but he's a sizable individual to look at least when he's on the track. So. Pride of Arras, the first one. The second, we are going for a horse from the William Haggas team, Crown of Oaks.
This horse I've been most keen on. I just thought this was a really good, really promising run. It's in about 6th place there, you see in the blue Tony Bloom colours. I don't think the whip is ever used. It's a nice introduction. It's pushed along inside the final furlong, teaching him. He's taking lengths out of 3 more prominently ridden horses. I've little doubt that if they all are fitting well, I think he'll turn out the best of these. And again, it's the breeding really screams of a horse who's going to be pretty decent. He's the 9th foal. There's 6 of the previous 8 foals have won races. All of those 6. Achieving a pretty high standard, and 3 or 4 of them achieving a really high standard. In fact, his full brother, a horse called English Oak, won, was it the Britannia, the Balmoral at Ascot for a mark of 99 by a country mile, and ended up with a mark of, 108, 109. I think this is that sort of horse. I think it's a pattern racer in the making if it stays well, if he stays written well, and I just thought that was a really, really promising introduction.
Well, the 2 horses you mentioned, clearly very promising, Pride of Arras and Crown of Oaks. The 3rd horse who's made up the Steve Mellish trio to follow for the season ahead, a bit more obvious, but totally arguably, assuming all is well with him, one of the most exciting horses for the season ahead.
Well, yeah, it is both obvious, but at the same time, I just think, I think if he's fitting well, I think he's very likely to win the Derby myself. I think this form is on a par with anything we saw as a 2-year-old. Certainly right up there with the best 2-year-old form. Ruling Court, who's a fancy for the Guineas, and the
Wimbledon Hawkeye.
Yeah, both have franked the form.
Yeah, the 4th horse, the Waco Kid,
absolutely. And I think he's well on top of the finish. But the thing that really interests me is that the breeding of the horses by See the Stars, a rare See the Stars for the Cornwall team, out of a mile and a half winner. The other members of the family stay well, very much bred for middle distance. races, and I was actually pleased that it's been the report seems to suggest the Guineas might come too soon, and they might go Dante Derby. And I really like that idea because I think this is a middle distance horse. I'm quite glad that if that does happen, that they're not going to go the Guineas route to start with. And if he's in the same form, you know, if he comes back as good as he was, I think he's a really exciting horse actually. So it is unoriginal, but I do think he's. If I had to name a classic winner at this stage, it would be him winning the Derby.
And I know that we've talked about status of races, etc., and what's the best race in the world, and what's the most exciting, and how the Arc and the Breeders' Cup, etc. But at this time of the year, tradition has always been finding your classic horses, your Guineas and your Derby horses, and there's something exciting about finding the Derby horse now, even a horse as obvious as the Lion in Winter, and added to that. You touched on it yourself, the idea of Aidan O'Brien trying to guide a See the Stars, which is not something he's had much experience of. For a trainer with the achievements that he's had, you know, Galileo after Galileo after Galileo, now obviously one or two others, but it's quite exciting.
Well, the Derby's maybe not quite as much as he was, but it's still a producer of stallions. And, well, you just mentioned too, you know, Cedars are one of the best Derby winners we've seen in recent times. It's turned out a really top-class stallion as well. Galileo, you mentioned, you know, Derby winner again, wide margins, really good stallion. And, I find that I do find that exciting. And I think the Derby is a race we're rightly proud of. There's some. Not every year is a vintage year. It's still a race that you're dreaming to win, and I'm sure the people will tell you at Cornwall it's still one of the races they most want to win as the year go by, and they've got more than the Lion in Winter running for them. They probably could run a Derby of their own, but I do think that's their most likely at this stage.
Not concerned by Aidan's message earlier in the week, and we may be hearing more from Aidan O'Brien, by the way, on the show, talking about his classic crop horses for older horses, etc., a little bit later on. When he says that, probably going to miss the Guineas.
I thought that's good news. I thought that might be the case because it missed his final race of the 2-year-old. It's clearly been a something, whatever it is. But I read that to mean that they were quite happy with it, but they're not going to rush it. And they talked about, because the end of that sentence talked about maybe he's going to be Dante Derby more than Guineas. I wasn't convinced about his Guineas prospects. I think probably, but I do think as a 3-year-old, I really see him as a middle distance horse, and I must say I don't mind, as long as he's well. I don't mind him missing the Guineas at all. And again, I'm sure Aidan will have a few runners in the race anyway.
And it's always exciting when, at this time of the year, everyone has strong opinions, isn't it? I mean, you're a little bit more circumspect, having seen a lot in your time. But sometimes people have very strong views onto what horses might or might not do. I've gone for 3 3-year-olds who showed a great deal of promise in very limited experiences last year. And the first horse I'm going for, like Steve, is a Rafe Beckett horse who was entered in the Derby. And this is I Am, I Said. Now, I have to confess that when he ran here at Newmarket, I was more interested in the name more than anything else, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. But early part of the race, he wasn't really going at all. He was being pushed along, trying to be kidded along. And this is where I always enjoy a jockey who's kind on a horse. Richard Kingscote was the man in the saddle this day, riding for Rafe Beckett. And this is the manner in which he wins. He beats a horse called Byblos, who'd had racecourse experience and been second, a really smartly bred horse from the John Golston team. The third horse, Present Times, came out to win at Lingfield. He's by Al Manzour, who hasn't had a really top superstar. There's some smart horses, but I get the feeling that this horse has potential to be quite smart. Where he goes, I'm not entirely certain. He's a half-brother to Enfjar, who won the John Smith Cup last season for Roger Varian team. And I liked what he did last year. I liked how green he was and how he won in the end, despite being so green. And like I said, this would be a talking point, hopefully, for Steve. He'll probably tell me that this is craziness, but I Am, I Said is my funeral song. So well, it's by a Neil Diamond song, and it's a song that I've loved my whole life. So I've said to my family that eventually, when the time comes, let's play I Am, I Said. But not that it's going to bother me, and that's what Steve's been making fun of all night, because why does anyone care what is played at a funeral?
Well, I'm hoping you don't hear it. That would be my wish for you. How far is this horse going to stay?
Good question. I'm sort of thinking 1.25 miles, would be ideal at this stage. I'm hoping that he gets a chance to try a mile and a half. He, like yours, he's also entered. He's one of the 12 entered in the Derby for Rafe Beckett. So I hope we'll get to see him do something good. But regardless of my own sentiment, he was pretty impressive in that one start, winning by 4.5 lengths in the end.
And if I'm at your funeral, I'll let you know if we ever meet up in love whether they actually played the song.
If you're at my funeral and things have
You'd
gone
be unlucky, wouldn't you?
Badly wrong.
You would be very unlucky.
Things have gone badly wrong.
In the scheme of things, you would be unlucky. But you never know. You can't count your chickens. No. Is that a song as well? Have that at your funeral.
Oh, goodness me. We had an email earlier.
Chicken, that one.
We had an email earlier from AJ who mentioned a horse that he said he couldn't believe that the presenters and pundits and we hadn't mentioned had been included in Horses to Follow. Well, I've included in my Horses to Follow, and that's Cosmic Year by Kingman at a passage of time. The pedigree itself is outstanding. Now, we're watching him late on here at Sandown, and the horse who's in the noseband, who finishes back in third. So we heard about Rock Dora earlier. The horse in third with the noseband is Keita Bethune of Andrew Balding's, who's now rated 91. Look at the ease in which he wins. I know the time wasn't outstanding. The other part about this race that really I think it highlights just the sort of horse that you want. He came out the gates and he was out wide, and he never pulled. He was never any trouble. He just settled beautifully, which I think is almost as good a sign when a horse races for the first time as what he does at the end of the race, because there'll be times where it would be dangerous, you know, being out wide and being in sort of awkward positions. But of course, the pedigree was the other thing, Steve.
Absolutely.
I mean, that Juddmonte pedigree by Kingman at a passage of time. There are very few pedigrees that can exceed the quality in that.
Visually, I can't think of any more impressive maiden winners we got last year. As I say, when you then back it up with the family, I mean, the world is, you know, at his feet. In theory, I mean, it's one of the most exciting horses going into the 3-year-old campaign, without a doubt. And he hasn't been missed. He's one of the fancies. For
the Guineas,
8 to 1, that sort of price for the Guineas. So people have seen it.
Very good and all that, but I thought that's when you consider the other horses who are potentially lining up for the
Would
Guineas.
you go for a trial first? I'm guessing.
I would presume. I mean, I'd presume something like the Greener would be in his remit.
I would think so, because he's only had the one run. So they were going to run him, missed a run at Newbury's, didn't it, because of the ground early on in the season. But it's really exciting. I mean, all the things you say about it, and you know, you may well be highlighting a star. We'll see.
Trip-wise, I thought mile and a quarter. A mile and a quarter, I thought, I mean, if he turned into a really good horse, I think the Juddmonte might be his sort of race. I'm thinking far ahead, but this is the time to dream, right? I thought he could bridge the mile and a quarter. He could be that type of horse. He's clearly got a lot of natural speed, comes out of the gate, settles and all that sort of stuff, which will give him a chance of staying a bit further. I mean, the down, sort of a mile and a quarter, mile and a half.
Definitely. There are Kingmans who stay, definitely. You've already highlighted the horse didn't pull at all. That'll help him stay, and the dam side, absolutely encouraging. I'd be pretty hopeful on paper of the horse down a mile and a quarter for sure.
And the third horse that I'm going to mention is also another with an outstanding pedigree. It's a filly by Justify out of Winter. Her name is Falling Snow. She made her debut, one and only start at the Curragh in August, and that's the grey horse. To her inside is Ballet Slippers, who ended up running quite well in the Fillies Mile at the back end of last season. So that's an idea of the quality of this debut performance from this daughter of Justify. The thing that she didn't do is that she didn't show a sparkling turn of foot, but she travelled very nicely, and then she just wore away at Ballet Slippers. And if you watch right at the end, she changes her legs and then starts going away further, just there. And then she starts to extend away. Obviously, she hits the line, and you don't really see her go even further clear. But she's a full sister to London City, who looked a really promising horse last year, and promising horse up to a mile and a half. So I could see her getting further. Obviously, the Dam was a high-class horse for the O'Brien team. So trip-wise, I thought she might be an Oaks filly more than anything else. She's from the Donica O'Brien team. Obviously, Aidan, Joseph have achieved a lot more than Donica, but he's shown with the likes of Porta Fortuna,
absolutely,
when a good one comes through, he can get them to win the big races. So I thought she was a sort of middle distance potential.
that was really likeable for Hall making a debut. I thought it was a thoroughly professional job. He's almost ridden to pick off the leader, and the leader put up a fight, and she had to sort of get down a little bit, but didn't have a super hard race, and went on top of the finish. That was a lovely debut effort, no question.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.